Hello, I'm Charles Brock and I'm a Highland Woodworker. I just love coming to Highland Woodworking in Atlanta, Georgia. It's where I get all my fine woodworking tools and a great woodworking education. Let me show you what we've got on the big show today. This time on the Highland Woodworker.
Of course, you see this great arch that's in the back of all Poyner chairs.
A former slave, his incredible chairs, and a history lesson you probably weren't taught in school.
Really light pressure, really low angle. You can almost feel no hook on there whatsoever.
Before you make that final surface with a scraper, Mike Pekovich hones in on some finer points.
I think partly the reason I went into orthopedics is because of the woodworking that I was doing before that.
Spend a moment with Dr. Jeff Justis and see his amazing woodworking operation firsthand. These stories and more this time on the Highland Woodworker. We're in Franklin, Tennessee, and I want to tell you, I have learned the most about furniture from investigating antiques. And for a chair lover, this is a 19th century post and rung chair. It was made by a slave with an interesting story, and we're here with Rick Warwick, who is the Franklin historian. He spent lots of time writing about and learning about post and rung chairs in the area and about the story of Richard Dick Poyner. Rick, tell us about this beautiful chair.
Well, my experience with Dick Poyner goes back to 1971 in my American history class. I had one student tell me that his chairs at the house were made by a slave. And so I started investigating his family and then going the community and found out almost everybody in western Williamson County has a set of Poyner chairs. So I tried to see how many I could collect, and over the years I probably had 150 Poyner chairs. So we know he was making them on a large scale because everyone knows about a Poyner chair in Middle Tennessee.
And they're made in the traditional style. When you take a look at it, tell us about the seat and about how it adds to.
Well, the ones that I have found, this is the best example of the quality of weaving that you'll find. It's white oak splits, and you notice how uniform they are and how neat and tight that seat is. And you can spot a Poyner chair from a mile away by its style, its simplicity, the two pegs at the top, that arched back, and it's all maple and hickory with the green post construction of the wood shrinking against the dry rung. Makes for a tight chair.
Yeah, let's see one of these posts here. I know you've got some.
Well, this came out
parts.
of I got this this chair too late. It was already broken, but I was able to salvage this one post, and it is, you can see it's a lady's rocker because you can tell how short it is. But you can look in and you can see how it was drilled with the bit. And then, of course, you see this great arch that's in the back of all Poyner chairs.
And this is all straight grain, so you know that it was bent.
That's right. It was
not
bent.
sawn.
It was probably steamed and put in a press, a form that would give you that arch. And then, of course, the very all Poyner chairs have the maple peg on each side, and that's really what holds it together. There's no glue that I could find in these. It's that green construction, and it's maple and hickory rungs, and I've been told that he dried the rungs. He had a mule operating lathe.
So with the mule or the horse driving the belts and giving him a lot of power, he was more of an industrial or a production chair maker.
He was running a chair factory. He was a pretty good craftsman. Everybody, even though he was living during the time of slavery and then that Reconstruction period, he was admired by his neighbors. And I know that because I talked to some old people who they didn't know Dick Poyner, but their parents did, and they all spoke highly of what a quality man he was.
Well, I think the quality of the work is evident when you see how the rungs interlocked here. You can see how they're actually notched out.
Yeah.
So that you couldn't hardly pull it apart.
I have tried to repair. Sometimes a rung will break, somebody will stand on it and they'll break, and so they bring them to me and say, could you put a rung in it? And most of the time you can knock it open enough and slide in one. On a Poyner chair, you can't do that because it takes a car jack of opening it up to put pressure on it, and many times the post will split before it will give up the tenon.
Well, you know, as a furniture maker, all furniture makers hope their work is going to last for at least a century. But this has definitely done it, and it's because of the traditional methods. They worked. I mean, there was no glue. There were interlocking joints, all the mechanical joints, and the chair seat was woven so tightly. And I just love this mule ear. Did he do anything else besides the mule ear?
There are, in some families I've found, there are some chairs with the finials, certain style, and I've kind of wanted to say I think that's an older chair than the mule eared in this area, and it's probably Robert Poyner's, who was Dick Poyner's owner and possibly father. Can't swear to that, but there are in this county many varieties of the finial and the mule-eared. He makes a great story because in slavery, by 1849, he's out of slavery. He's on his own book.
In other words, he was doing his own accounting then.
He was doing his own
business.
He was on his own business, and apparently he was doing well at what he was producing. Everyone, even today, a Poyner chair is. Well, I sold some. I donated some to the Heritage Foundation. They sold them, and the Poyner chairs brought $2,500. I mean, one rocking chair brought $2,400, and a set of Poyner chairs brought $1,000. There were four of them, so that was $250 a piece. So, and I used to could buy them for $1, $5, and those days are gone.
Sure. Well, this is just a great story. I mean, when you think about a furniture maker being able to keep some of the money from the chairs that he made while in slavery, and then to eventually buy himself and his wife, his second wife, out of slavery and become a prominent part of a community and train a whole legion of chair makers as his ancestors. That is one of the great legacies for a furniture maker. Well, Ed, looks like we have something real special in the toolbox this time.
Yeah, Rycon has a professional low-speed 8-inch grinder I'd like to show you. This grinder weighs a whopping 54 pounds. It's a substantial tool, and a grinder is one of those tools in the shop that's hard to get along without. And this being low speed makes it really nice for grinding on your tool steel. That slower speed, 1750 RPM for this unit, is going to allow less heat buildup, so your fine tools won't have the temper drawn out of the steel.
That's gone.
You want to avoid that when you're sharpening tools on any grinder. But a low-speed grinder like the Rycon with aluminum oxide wheels makes it a lot less likely this will happen.
Well, that's a great case for it. What makes this special?
This particular grinder, its overall weight, and just some nice features. The fact that it comes right out of the box with two wheels that are suitable for tool-grade steel, the aluminum oxide wheels. The grinders that you get down at the home box, usually they'll have like a carbon underim wheel, and that's fine for grinding on your lawnmower blade, but not for your quality tool steel.
Sure. I like this light is built right in.
It's nice. It's a nice light. It's gonna come on when you turn the grinder on, and it's gonna put some nice spot right where you're working. And this particular shield that comes with it has a magnifier through it as well, so you can actually get a magnified look at your work over here.
That's great.
So that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
So I have a tool that sadly suffered some tool abuse here. This is a carving gouge that was used as a pry bar, unfortunately, by somebody who wasn't experienced in using carving tools, fine carving tools. So why don't we take a second and see if we can get this knocked back down to It's just some rough grinding, and then I'll probably work this by hand, the bevel on the back later on.
Very good, Edward. You just have to have the right tools, and that's the right one for this. Coming up.
Go ahead and tilt it forward, and you'll get nice feathery shavings.
Sharpen your scraper skills with Fine Woodworking's Mike Pekovich. Plus,
We started, of course, with the two sides, which were 2.5 inches thick.
Dr. Jeff Justis takes us through his procedure of building this outstanding and complicated Bombay chest. Stay tuned, you're watching the Highland Woodworker.
I'm just an average, down-to-earth woodworker. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably about a 5. But one place I score a perfect 10 is right here, and I plan on keeping all 10. That's why I have a SawStop table saw. And there's more. Plenty of power, superior dust collection, and absolute accuracy. These features have made it the best-selling cabinet saw in America. Let Highland Woodworking help you put a SawStop in your shop.
Order a SawStop professional cabinet saw in March or April of 2017 and choose either one of these accessories for free. That's a $199 extra value. Put a SawStop in your shop. Highland Woodworking stocks a wide selection of Rikon power tools, known for their innovative design and rugged durability. Highland has sold thousands of Rikon's industry-leading bandsaws with sizes to fit every woodworking need, from the compact, affordable 10-inch model to competitively priced 14 and 18-inch models. Shop us also for Rikon's reliable planers, lathes, and professional low-speed grinder, all with an exceptional 5-year warranty. Rikon Power Tools. Woodworkers count on American-made forest saw blades for smooth, quiet cuts every time, without splintering, scratching, or tear-outs. The famous Woodworker 2 is the all-purpose combination blade. But for special cuts, Woodworker 2s are available for cutting dovetails, for flat-bottom joinery. A 30-tooth blade is perfect for ripping, a 48-tooth blade for superior cross-cuts, and a finger joint blade set. There is a perfect Forest Woodworker 2 for every table saw cut. Highland Woodworking has been a leader in woodworking education for more than 30 years. They offer all kinds of woodworking classes year-round, ranging from how to hand-cut dovetails and mortises to how to sharpen a plane or a chisel, how to build a cabinet, a chair, or a bookcase, or how to turn a wooden bowl. There are classes on wood finishing, French polishing, and even antique furniture restoration. For a list of upcoming classes that may interest you, just look in their catalog or go to highlandwoodworking.com. Mike, honing a scraper is such an important task, and there are ABCD ways to do it.
Yes.
Will you show me your way? It's so important to be able to make that final surface with a scraper.
Absolutely. It's something a lot of folks have problems with. A scraper is such a fantastic tool. It's so simple. It's just a piece of steel, but you can do great things with it. And Getting that hook turn just right is really the key. And there are a couple things that folks tend to get wrong about it, and that's what gets them into trouble. So let me show you my technique and how I avoid the two mistakes that most folks make out.
Oh, I've taken many a turn for the worse. So
First off, the first step before we even think about turning a hook is we've got to polish the faces and the edges. And we've got to try to keep those nice and square, because the more square and the sharp these edges are, the easier it is to turn a hook, and the smaller hook we have to turn. And that's really the key, both to using it well and also the longevity of this edge. So I've done a good job of preparing this, and now I'm ready to turn the hook. The first thing I want to do is I need to stretch out the steel just a little bit, coming up, just to give me a head start, and then I'm going to roll that over. I'm going to do both of those things with this burnisher. The burnisher I like has sort of an oval cross section. I like it because I can control the edge and not put too much pressure on it, and that's one of the keys. So to pull that steel out just a little bit, I hold the scraper flat on my workbench. I hold my burnisher flat on the scraper. I don't want to tilt it up. And I am pressuring right over the edge in just a couple light passes with the burnisher angled out, so I'm drawing the steel out is all I need. I'll do all four edges, and that's the great thing about the scraper. Really, it's a 4-in-1 tool. You set it up once, you have 4 sharp edges to take care of before you actually have to rehone that. Okay, so now I'm ready to turn that hook. I like to clamp it in my vise, and to give me a little bit of support, I use just a simple slotted block. Now, the two mistakes most folks make, number one is using too much pressure. We think, oh, we're bending steel, I'm going to really bear down. But actually, the contact area between that little corner and that oval profile is so small that even light pressure translates to pretty high pounds per square inch. So it's just, I'm thinking just really light pressure. If you run the burnisher over your finger without pushing your hand down, that's about the pressure that I want. The second thing most folks run into trouble is by putting too much of an angle on the burnisher. What that does is it creates a hook at a steep angle that will actually impact the way the scraper functions, because the steeper the hook you put on it, the further forward you have to tilt the scraper in order to use it. And that limits the ability for this tool to really do its job. So what I think about is I balance my burnisher and angle it just enough to where I know I'm hitting one corner, not the other.
So it's a slight compound angle.
Maybe 1 to 2 degrees.
Yeah.
It's still angled, so I want to push that steel out and roll it over. So I'm angling it just a little bit. 1, maybe 2. Then I'll tilt it the other way and come back towards me to get the other side. And if you feel that, it's just a really light burr or hook.
Yes.
It's a lot lighter than most folks are used to seeing. I'll hit the other side as well while I'm here. And when folks feel that little tiny hook, again, just kind of 1 and then coming back toward me, really light pressure, really low angle. You can almost feel no hook on there whatsoever. And folks think, well, that's going to take a really light shaving. Actually, it's not the size of the hook, it's more the angle, because here's what happens. If you put a really steep angle on it, and I have to tilt that scraper really far forward, what's happening is that my thumbs are what's driving the scraper through the cut. And if my thumbs are ahead of the leading edge, it's like trying to hold on to a hand plane just on the front tote and try to pull it through. What happens is the scraper wants to flip up out of the cut. So then you end up flexing it and pushing down, and it's a really inefficient way to go. Instead, because of that really slight angle, what I want to do is I'm going to slide this across, and it's going to skate across and angle it right until it catches. Right when it catches, that's the angle that I want to scrape at. And now my thumbs are actually behind that cutting edge. So instead of dragging the scraper through the cut, I'm actually You got to get low, get your wide stance. You can't just stand up here and do this. What happens is I'll hand the scraper to someone. They'll do this, it'll catch. They can't move it. They'll keep angling it until it pushes. Instead, get down low just like you're hand planing. Push it, angle it. Right when it catches,
So again, orientation and alignment to work and good posture for the task is very important.
exactly. And now with it straight up and down, it takes a lot of force, but you can remove a lot of stock really efficiently with the scraper. And then if you want a really fine cleanup cut, go ahead and tilt it forward. And you'll get nice feathery shavings. And you really have two tools in one, but having the option of going vertical with a heavy shaving or tilt it forward to clean that up, it really gives you a versatile tool.
And it's a great surface.
Not too bad. Yeah. And certainly not the pitfalls of a hand plane. I mean, you know, a dull hand plane is going to do a lot of damage really quick. A dull scraper is just going to make dust. So while the scraped surface is not quite as nice as a hand plane, it certainly can get rid of a lot of grits of sandpaper for you before you go through the sanding process.
And nobody likes sanding.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Yeah, give it a try.
Still ahead, a retired orthopedics handiwork. A moment with Dr. Jeff Justis. You're watching the Highland Woodworker. Are your tools Tormek sharp? Tormek, consistent, reliable, and razor sharp. Tormek, sharpening innovation.
For 35 years, Lee has manufactured the world's best joinery jigs. From our award-winning dovetail jigs and mortise and tenon jigs, to newer innovations like router table jigs. Easily add strong, beautiful joinery to your woodworking pieces, like half-blind dovetails, box joints, mortise and tenon joints, and through dovetails. Lee, simply the easiest and most versatile router joinery jigs.
Whiteside Machine Company has been in business for over 30 years, providing customers with quality American-made router bits. Fine Woodworking Magazine has declared Whiteside router bits best overall and best value when compared against 17 other brands. No matter the router application, they have the type and profile of carbide router bit you need. When you put a Whiteside router bit to work in your shop, it is guaranteed to make you smile. Moment with a Master is brought to you by Highland Woodworking, fine tools since 1978. Let Highland's legendary wood slicer resaw blade help make it easy for you to get great results sawing thick lumber into thinner boards. The wood slicer is designed to cut much faster, smoother, and quieter than ordinary bandsaw blades. You'll be amazed at how smooth a surface you'll get with a wood slicer. Its variable tooth pattern greatly reduces noise and vibration. Order a wood slicer from Highland Woodworking for your bandsaw today. Now sit back and be inspired with our Moment with a Master.
I think partly the reason I went into orthopedics is because of the woodworking that I was doing before that.
Not long ago, Dr. Jeff Justis said goodbye to a successful career helping hands.
Orthopedics is kind of woodworking on the bone. If you like working with your hands, being a surgeon, and particularly doing orthopedic work is a natural fit.
Now his operating room is this spacious woodworking shop inside his home in Oxford, Mississippi, fully equipped to handle the most difficult woodworking projects.
One of the problems we used to complain about in surgery was that our tools weren't as good as our woodworking tools.
His home doubles as a gallery, showcasing some of the most elegant furniture I have ever seen. This exquisite china cabinet is a showstopper. Countless hours went into the design, build, and assembly of this gorgeous masterpiece. Take a look at his stunning, large Duncan Fife dining table, detailed from top to bottom. And feast your eyes on this pie crust table with a carefully carved flowing edge and some beautifully carved ball and claw feet. And this Queen Anne dining chair, its form is flawless and the rich carvings are just masterful. Jeff's humble beginnings into this craft started at an early age.
I'm not sure I'd call it real woodworking, but I did make a little matchbox holder for my mother back when I was 10 or so years old. My great-great-grandfather did woodworking, but we're not sure whether he did it as a hobby or professionally. But he built a four-poster bed and a chest that I still have.
I can tell from looking at his turnings on that bed and your turnings, proportions are just wonderful.
Well, thank you.
I understand your dad did some woodworking and really kind of got you started.
I think he did. I was 10 years old when my uncle gave me a jigsaw with my dad's encouragement. And he was an original do-it-yourself kind of guy, so we were always doing some project. We weren't much into sports, so on Thanksgiving afternoon, instead of listening to a football game, we would build something and tear out the side of the house to put a dormer window in, that sort of thing.
Jeff had a feeling there would be a future in woodworking for him when he started studying the past.
The first reproduction was probably that music stand in the living room. I think I was 21. And that was from a book, Construction of Early American Furniture. To me, looking at a computer just doesn't give me the same feel as having a book.
Well, and the drawings, you started out at a time when they were like Carlisle Lynch. And,
yes.
And you said Lester Morgan.
Yeah.
And you could find the drawings to work from.
And that, I think that's what inspired, I think a trip to Williamsburg really inspired me when I was a teenager. Going to the craft shop and watching the guys do the work there at Williamsburg.
Decades later, Jeff would make a return visit to Williamsburg, Virginia, but this time under different circumstances. In 2015, Jeff Justis was awarded the Society of American Period Furniture Makers' highest achievement, the Cartouche Award.
A great honor. I feel rather humble by that because the people who have won it before were so much better than I feel I am. I'm still learning this business and I probably will be. I've never built a piece that I didn't learn something. I wish I'd done it differently. And that's what I enjoy doing is figuring out how to do these things. And sometimes I figure the wrong way and have to go back up and start over again.
Which is your favorite piece out of all of your work?
I really think the Bombay chest was a great satisfaction because of the complication involved in it and trying to figure out the best way to do it. I did make some mistakes in it, but it was a lot of fun.
3 sides all had the same curve. How could you tell where to start?
Well, that was the problem. We started, of course, with the 2 sides, which were 2.5 inches thick. And you have to remove enough wood to get it down to roughly 3/4 of an inch thick. And once the sides are done, then you have to curve the drawer fronts to match the same curve in the front. And the only way to do that is to have a guide, which we make a form in which the 3 drawer dividers can be placed in the form along with the rectangular shaped drawer fronts, the rectangular to start with.
And that holds everything in the right position so you can build while it's kind of in the form.
Yes. Otherwise, you would, if you tried to make this drawer separate from this drawer, you would end up with curves that would not match exactly. There's only one drawer that's rectangular shape, and that's the top drawer. The rest of them have gentle curves, especially the bottom drawer, which is curved to fit in the side.
So the dovetails are very interesting.
They are very interesting and complex because they're compound angle dovetails.
And even mortising for locks is kind of tricky.
Yes, it is, because the side, of course, some people might leave this as a flat piece, but I think having it shaped like the front is worthwhile. And since it curves inward, you have to build up the wood to support a rectangular lock.
And so this comes out a bit so that
it can stay at a right angle from the selvage edge.
Now, I understand there's something special about this top rail here.
You know, most of the originals that I have seen and reproductions of originals do not have a top rail. The top drawer rides against the bottom of the top piece, and I'm not sure why they didn't put a top rail in, but my thinking when I was working with the design of this, based on several known designs like Robert Whitley's design, was to come up with a way to have a top rail. I thought it would be valuable to have a bead showing around each drawer as they are the lower drawers. The only way to do that would be to have a top rail.
And the top here would continue to, if it was in place of the top rail, would be in the way the whole time you were trying to build.
Exactly. The top actually can slide on and off from the front because there's a sliding tapered dovetail. In the top, the male part is in the top of the side, and the female part, of course, is in the bottom of the top. Although it was made to fit and I could move it on and off, I could leave it off with this top rail because it's dovetailed into the side.
The carvings, there's something special about your ball and claw feet. You don't have, acanthus leaves?
The ball and claw foot is that of a bird of prey, so I thought that perhaps a design that would show feathers might be worthwhile.
Well, Jeff, I understand you have another love. You're no just fly-by-night woodworker. You fly by day and night, is that correct?
Well, that's true, yes. I started flying a long time ago when I was in medical school because I didn't play tennis, I didn't play cards, and I didn't play golf. So I started to learn to fly.
That was a lifelong ambition to that point?
Yeah, I'd always wanted to. I grew up during the war, and aviation was an exciting thing for me then. And it remains an exciting thing even to this day. I'm fortunate in being healthy enough to continue to fly. I actually built an airplane, took 23 years, and that worked with my woodworking because I'd work in the shop a half a day and I'd glue something up and I'd need to wait until the glue dried, so I'd go to the airport and work on the airplane.
Jeff, what would you like your legacy to be?
Well, I would hope that someday one of these pieces of furniture would find someone that would say, yeah, that's pretty well built.
It's just kind of basic.
Yeah,
you
right.
did a great job. Well, as one who has seen your work today, any person that has one of your pieces really has a treasure.
No, thank you.
It's beautiful.
Improve your woodworking experience. Sign up for Wood News Online, a monthly newsletter showcasing the latest news, tips, and classes Highland Woodworking has to offer. By signing up, you'll receive the latest episode of the Highland Woodworker, special store promotions, and Wood News Online delivered straight to your inbox. Sign up today.
That's all the time we have for the show today. But check us out on social media and come back to see us next time on the Highland Woodworker.